Good morning. It is Friday, October 26, 2018. And as you can see, we have the chalkboard up already. And that is because our, the way we phrased what we're talking about just wouldn't fit on the notepad. And so here we are with the chalkboard. We're going to update, and this is mostly updates. I'll just be honest with you. This is mostly updates of stories that have happened that we've already reported on. We're going to start with an update on the hoaxes, aka the 10 packages, currently that's the count, that have been sent to various political operatives on the Democratic side of the divide. And then we're going to look at an interesting article about Brazilian YouTubers. This is really fascinating, to me anyway. We're going to update you on the location of the mixed multitude marches, because it's not just one now, it's 3. And then we're going to look at a case of divine intervention, question mark. Is it a case of divine intervention? But before we leave the desk this morning, we're going to do something a little different. I have 2 things that I want to put up on the chalkboard for you to consider. This first was found on Mumblet yesterday when I was posting the link to our yesterday's YouTube. And I want to, before I start reading it, I want to say a couple of things. First of all, on the bottom there is a white watermark because I have not purchased this software. It doesn't cost very much. I think it's actually donationware. However, I cannot afford to go out of pocket for anything other than what we are already currently sustaining monthly, at least this month. And I have wanted to purchase this software because it's an effective screen cap plug-in for Chrome, but I have not been able to do it this month. All right, so this is from Mumblet. It was reposted by C. Brown, and the author is Robert Surgener or Surgener. I'm sorry, Robert, if I have messed up your last name. I gave it my best shot. I cannot vet Robert Surgener because I cannot find his account on Mumblet. So maybe this was posted via another social media outlet. So here we go. Folks, this is a dilemma we are facing. I have very close friends in Texas. 2 of my sons live in West Texas, and the information from law enforcement in that state is disturbing. Other Facebook friends have posted some of the facts I am hearing out of Texas, and it adds up to one thing. There is going to be a war on the southern border of our nation. The estimated number of the, quote, caravan, close quote, is approximately 10,000. It is being forecasted that the number will be 20,000 by the time it reaches the USA. In addition to that, according to aerial reconnaissance and intel by the U.S. military, there are approximately 40,000 Mexicans who are massing or planning to join the migrants or the immigrants near the border, where the caravan is headed. There will be approximately 60,000 people who will rush our nation's border at the same time. President Donald Trump signed deployment orders for the 82nd Airborne Division of the United States Army, instructing them to deploy from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, to the U.S. southern border at Mexico, in addition to the 1st Armored Division of the United States Army at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, as has been given 72-hour ready standby orders to begin shipping armored vehicles to the southern border via rail. But that isn't as important as the resolve of the Texas population, who have decided that they are not going to allow this invasion to occur. This is an organized effort by Texans with guns who believe, due to political correctness, the military will not do the job that is necessary to keep 50,000 illegals from rushing the border at the end and end up flooding our country. And we'd like to thank Robert Surgener, who posted this on 10/23, and C. Brown, who reposted it on Mumblet. And then we have one other thing that we would like to show you before we go into our capture of today's news. This also found in C. Brown's user, a Mumblet user, yesterday. 8 U.S. Code, Section 1182, entitled Inadmissible Aliens. Under Section F, it's not Section F, but under bullet point F, it reads, suspension of entry or imposition of restrictions by President. Whenever the President finds that the entry of any aliens or any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such a period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of any aliens any restriction he may deem to be appropriate. Let that sink in, because that is most likely what we're heading for. If the intelligence provided by the previous poster via C. Brown is accurate, and I see no reason why it is not accurate given what we've seen. And if you go to Reality Not Fiction's post from last night, he will point out the fact that the news has not covered this mixed multitude 3-caravan massing of people headed for the U.S. border in about 24-ish hours. So we don't know exactly where caravan number 1 is, and we'll see that in our capture this morning. So let's go and look at the capture. The story is actually from Reality Not Fiction, and his analysis from last night, about 10 o'clock last night, has to do with current conditions that we're going to talk about today. He and I have been covering this. This didn't happen because we made an agreement or anything like that. It just so happens that we're both covering the mixed multitude marches, because there are now 3 caravans heading towards the United States. The first caravan is now midway between Wixlata and Arriaga, about midway, in a town that I'm not even going to try and pronounce, but I will highlight it for you. It just so happens that we're both covering this same thing. And so we've kind of been, he covers one aspect and I cover a different aspect. And so I'm recommending to you his analysis. That's our first story. And his link, again, will be at the head of the show notes. So our actual first story is from the Atlantic today. And the title is, "If the Pipe Bomb Mailings Weren't Terrorism, What Is?" There's no consensus in academia, law, or common usage on when an attack is more than just a crime. And here we have one of the series of press conferences from yesterday. This happens to be the one with Andrew Cuomo, and the caption reads, "New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said that because the pipe bomb mailings were designed to terrorize, they were terrorism. Was he right?" And the photo credit is Kevin Combs from via Reuters photo pool. The morning had brought a series of fast-breaking reports, one after another, of pipe bombs mailed to political figures, including several Democratic politicians. But according to CNN's Jake Tapper, a spokesperson for the National Counterterrorism Center, had told the network that the center didn't see a nexus to terrorism. If that wasn't terrorism, what is? Though terrorism has been around since before organized warfare, there is still no consensus in academia, law, or common usage about how to define it. Quote, "Terrorism," close quote, "depends on the attacker's motives, which in many cases, and certainly in the absence of a suspect here, are murky." Quote, "If there are different legal definitions of terrorism," said Matthew Olson, the former head of National Counterterrorism Center, which coordinates terrorism-related intelligence across the government. As for how the National Counterterrorism Center defines it, quote, "The first question they ask is, and it's really open and it's really broad, is there a connection to international terrorism?" Close quote. Why would they automatically ask that question? I don't know. Reality, not fiction, might have the answer, and it might have to do with modern, since George Bush war on terrorism in 2001, declaration war on terrorism. But as many have pointed out in the ensuing 17 plus years, that it's not necessarily a war on terrorism, but a war of terrorism. All right, so I'm going to leave you links in the show notes. We have to move on because I got a late start. All right, I thought was very interesting. This is from Buzzfeed. I don't normally cite Buzzfeed because I don't normally source Buzzfeed. However, as you can see by the headline, this is an intriguing headline. And it reads, "YouTubers will enter politics, and the ones who do are probably going to win." YouTubers. All right, let's see what this author, who is Ryan Broderick for BuzzFeed News, reporting from Sao Paulo, Brazil, has to tell us and why he posits this hypothesis. A group of 20-somethings leveraged their huge YouTube audience and actually won seats in Brazil's federal and state elections. What happens next is anyone's guess. And this was posted on the 21st, so 5 days ago. Sao Paulo, Brazil. Kim Kataguiri is known in Brazil for a lot of things. He's been called a fascist. He's been called fake news kingpin. Is he a YouTuber? He definitely uses YouTube. He's definitely a troll. A troll with a consistent message, though he points out maybe he's Brazil's equivalent of Milo Yiannopoulos. His organization in Movimento Brasil Livre, MBL, the Free Brazil movement, is like the Brazilian Breitbart, or maybe it's like the American Tea Party. Maybe it's both. Is it a news network? Kataguiri says it isn't, but it's not a political party either. He says that MBL is just a bunch of young people who love free market economics and memes. Memes, if you don't know what they are, they're usually visual. Sometimes they can be in text or spoken format in the forms of slogans, but it's usually a visual representation of a thought process, not unlike political cartooning. One thing is very clear: his YouTube channel, the memes, the fake news, and MBL's army of supporters have helped Kataguiri, 22, become the youngest person ever elected to Congress in Brazil. I think you have to be 30 in the United States for comparison. He's also trying to become Brazil's equivalent of Speaker of the House. Very interesting. And here is a crowd shot of people in Brazil, and the caption reads, Kim to Kataguiri Center, so that's right here. This 22-year-old fella is now the youngest person to be elected to their Congress and is gunning for Speaker of the equivalent of their Speaker of the House. Free Brazil movement takes part in a march for freedom to demand President Dilma Rousseff's impeachment in Brazil, and this is May 27, 2015. As the world panicked over whether Brazil's far-right president frontrunner I'm assuming it's it could be Jair Bolsonaro, okay, I'm trying, people, is more of a Trump or a Duarte. MBL pushes forward 16 of its own candidates. 6 of them won the federal election, more at the state and local levels. MBL's YouTube channel has grown from 0 to 1 million subscribers this year. MBL was on the front page of YouTube every day in the month leading up to the election. The plan is to have all the group's elected members start their own YouTube channels. 40% of MBL's funding already comes from YouTube ads. MBL, that's very 40%. This is fascinating. 40% of this non-political party, non-news network funding comes from YouTube ads. We'll touch on that in a minute. MBL affiliated YouTuber and newly elected state representative Arthur Mame Fale, oh boy, sorry, I can't figure out whether, never mind, personally made $12,000 off of his solo channel in October. As Fale puts it, quote, I guarantee YouTubers in Brazil are more influential than politicians, close quote. I'm not going to finish this article because I want to make a comment on this. This 40% figure funding this movement, I guess, in Brazil, coming from YouTube ads, fascinates me, and I'll be honest, I did not read this whole article before I cited it. So it took me by surprise. Just pause here for a moment. The fact that they report that this movement has more followers via their reporting via YouTube than the politicians, more influence, I should say, speaks volumes. Where have we seen this coalition type movement before, or at least the allegation of it? Well, we've seen it in the United States, and it's kind of a shifting picture depending on who is reporting it. But there are allegations with some, at least relational ties, that the Q people, the Veterans on Patrol people, your news network potentially, and a couple of other, like I said, shifting participants depending on who is reporting and from what perspective, that they all have personal ties. And how that works out is you'll have one group of people here and another group of people over here and a third over here, that all know each other and all have personal ties and all hang out together in real life, if we even have real life outside of YouTube anymore, or social media. What I'm saying is they bring their real relationships into social media, but they're not transparent about it. They keep it very quiet, and they work together on certain stories or certain issues or certain perspectives. And it doesn't come out until much later that they are all actually focused on certain issues. There's another version of this that's much older, and I think they're taking this I think they're taking the playbook from this older issue. It's called single issue politics, and I know something about it because I was involved in a single issue political campaign years ago, when I was a political babe in the woods. An organization approached me and said, "Hey, we'd like you to go to Washington as a citizen lobbyist on this date. We're going to Capitol Hill to talk to senators on this issue, and we'd like you to come along. We will, because you're a student, we will, help you out with transportation, with accommodation." And that kind of thing. Once you get to Washington, you're responsible to get to Washington. Once you get to Washington, we will help ease or offset your costs with accommodation discounts and that kind of thing. And I went. And our only lobbying purpose as just regular citizens was to impress on Congress how a particular issue was important for the United States as a whole, and so forth. So I think that these groups are taking this older model, this single issue politics, and reusing it in a modern way, more modern than 30 years ago, which blows my hair back when I say that. So what single issue politics, political movements do is they find other groups that are sympathetic. So in the civil rights area, or era, when we were trying to get equality recognized in society across the board, whether it was the African American, the whole busing issue, and the ability to go anywhere and use the same facilities as whites, drinking fountains, restrooms, all that kind of stuff, restaurant. I mean, it was pretty divided. And in the 1960s, there was a big push, as you may well know. During that time, the civil rights, the black population formed a coalition with many Jews, many Catholics, many Protestants, who have their own concerns, but were sympathetic and understood the rightness of the cause, so they coalesced. That's single issue politics. And I think that's what's happening in the United States. And we can see that a form of that swept quite a young person into the equivalent of the House in Brazil. So let's move on. We're going next to the aftermath of the first wave of the mixed multitude marches leaving their last the last place they were at, which is without seeing it, I can't pronounce it. And this is by Chris Menahan, Friday, October 26th, which is today. Viral video purportedly shows a Mexican woman lamenting how a park in her city was left covered in trash with wasted food and clothing strewn about after a group of migrants passed through. Quote, "This is Juarez Street of the Central Park, and the migrants left us the garbage," close quote. The woman can be heard saying in Spanish, "Like we had said before, what a waste of food when they said they don't even have enough to eat," close quote. This is in Spanish. We're going to play it. And if those of you...
Significa que no deben de ser por lo menos limpios y evitar que la basura la hayan dejado por todos lados. La verdad, no se vale que en un lugar hospitalario le hayan dejado todo este tiradero de basura. Y la ropa que muy amablemente se les regala, pues también la hayan dejado tirada. Entonces, aquí es donde vienen las interrogantes. En verdad es gente que necesita, gente educada, gente tranquila, gente limpia, o hay algo más atrás de esta caravana.
The reporter Chris Menahan requotes what she said and then says viral video purports to show streets in Mexico. It's okay, this is what we already read. Quote, "And the fact that they travel to a foreign land doesn't mean they shouldn't at least clean and avoid leaving trash everywhere," close quote. She says, "The truth is, it's not fair that in a place that offered its hospitality, they left all the trash and the clothing that were so kindly donated. Where have we seen that before? Also left strewn," close quote. She continued, it begs the question, are they really people that have needs, educated people, tranquil people, clean people, or is there something else behind this caravan? She said, this is fascinating that this woman draws this conclusion outside of the United States, outside of our political atmosphere. She observes with her own eyes the behavior of these people and asks the very same question we've been asking for days now. So on our map, they were in, let's scroll this up, Mapastek, that's presumably where she's located, because that's the last time we saw them on the news. This, from this little city all the way up to this city, which I cannot pronounce, good luck, is a 9.5-hour trek. But this is the next major waypoint. So let's just check here. Nope, those are directions. Okay, when I zoomed in, I couldn't find anything on this route. You can see there's another route. They can go this way, which is even longer. But I assure you they're going up, straight up 200 because it's shorter. A 9.5-hour walk. So mileage-wise, does it say? 30 miles. It's 30 miles between these two. And these people, the women, could barely make a 20-mile or a 25-mile trek from, where is it? I took it off the map so I could measure distance. From Tapachula to Ixtlada. They were struggling with a 25-mile march. So again, here's where we think we're gonna see them next, and they still have quite a ways to go to get to. Let me pull this out so I can see it better. To here, which is let me put it back up on the map. Arriaga, that's still a long way. Very long way. From here, let's pull it out one more time. From here to here. And this is a decision point, again, as we've talked about. Let's move on. We've already hit reality, not fiction. So, where are we at? Today in history. October 26th. Let's play a short clip of what happened today in history.
October 26, 2001. In Washington, President George W. Bush signs the USA Patriot Act more than a month after the September 11th attacks. The act gives federal authorities unprecedented ability to search, seize, detain, or eavesdrop in their pursuit of possible terrorists.
It will help law enforcement to identify, to dismantle, to disrupt, and to punish terrorists before they strike.
1972.
Okay, that's all we're playing of their clip because we don't have permission, and under Title 17, Section 107, which is always seen at the head of our broadcast in our intro. This is for news and information and discussion purposes. And let's move on to an interesting story. Okay, from Sputnik this morning, we have divine intervention. This is a question. Jesus painting in U.S. temple miraculously spared by fire. Remember this word, fire, okay? And then we'll just, this was posted this morning. An inferno caused by a lightning strike gutted everything in a historic church in Massachusetts. Well, maybe not everything after all. A painting of Jesus Christ standing in a white robe with hands extended, bearing the marks of crucifixion, was miraculously spared by a massive fire set off by a lightning strike that hit a historic church in Massachusetts, destroying almost everything inside the 150-year-old building. This is a different place in Moscow, this picture. So this is Resurrection Jesus, as the text creates a visual picture of a white robe with hands extended, bearing the marks of crucifixion, offering salvation to all. This is just before he ascends, this picture. And is, in my opinion, the appropriate depiction of Jesus offering salvation. I don't agree with the Jesus on the cross as being the appropriate depiction, because it's not the end of the story. A dying Jesus has not completed his task on our behalf. A resurrected Jesus has. All right, so let's move on. Firefighters and rescue crews working amid the rubble found the painting of Jesus virtually untouched by the flames. And we're just going to skip down because I want you to see. According to National Register of Historic Places, the First Baptist Church in Wakefield, Massachusetts was built around 1872 and rebuilt in 1912 after a fire. But look what Sputnik, their algorithms tell you are related stories. Macedonian Orthodox Church fire in Sydney leaves several injured. Moscow Heritage Site church to be restored after fire. This is kind of interesting because in Scripture, theologically, fire always represents purification. So while it has destructive properties, it always ultimately points towards purification. Just leaving that there for you to think about. As we go to my daily nag, Nebraska. Today is your last day to register before the midterm elections on November 6th. If you have not registered, please get it done by the end of business today so that you can vote. All right, Connecticut in 4 days. And I'm done nagging you guys. You guys already know we're 11 days out. You know, I've bugged you enough. You have the message. And let's go back to the desk. All right, we're back at the desk, and we have seen some interesting things today. And I'm just going to throw the first two things up on the screen for you as a reminder of where we started today with this article or opinion by Mr. Surgeon, I think his name was. I can't see it clearly because it's very small in my preview window, as well as U.S. Code 1182, I think it is. But you can see it for yourself. And I'd like to draw your attention that it seems to me that once again, what we're seeing in the news, or at least what I'm reporting, what is piquing my interest, and as I go through the news feed, has a theme. So we saw, this migrant caravan bubble up 2 weeks ago. Actually 13 days ago, because it started on October 13th and this is the 26th. That's 13 days. So we reported on that. We've reported on the bomb issues, and just as I was doing my run-through review to make sure that I had good cuts and all that, or at least adequate, two things came in from RT as I was doing my run-through. The first thing was FBI confirms suspicious package addressed to Senator Booker has been recovered in Florida. And then on the heels of that, 10 minutes later, another one came in. Suspicious package found in NYC addressed to former DNI Department, I I don't know what DNI is. Department of National Intelligence. It's just, I'm drawing a blank. Sorry. Clapper. So, Booker, and then 10 minutes later it was reported Clapper, also had a package addressed to him. And you can find those on RT. They're going to be lead articles. You'll find them in the Twitter feed. You will find them if you Google. So I'm not going to leave links. I'm sorry. Go ahead and find it yourself. I'm just saying because we're already 40 minutes 52, and I've been trying to keep it to 35. I had some more video of the dog and I out racing around yesterday, but we're going to have to reserve that for another day. We did have an interesting event happen during that recording. But let's stick with our topic, and I want to draw your attention to the last story where this church in Massachusetts was destroyed by fire, except this painting of resurrected Jesus offering salvation to all, and the related stories of these other two churches in other places destroyed by fire. And the Massachusetts church was destroyed by a lightning strike, which caused fire. And so what I would like to, the thought I'd like to leave you with is that fire in Scripture, as I've already said, always indicates purification. And a step further, purification throughout Scripture, from Genesis to Revelation, always starts in the family of God. Now, the common phrase is in the house of God, but in the house is where your family lives. And my user ID, John 14, for those of you who have been following along, you already know this. My name certainly isn't John. My name, or my user ID was chosen because I said to myself, what user ID can I use that potentially will have an impact on other people, that will point other people to what I believe is my salvation and my hope? And I went back to a scripture that was impressed upon me as a very young adult, and maybe someday I'll recreate what happened visually to the best of my ability. Nevertheless, John 14:1, paraphrased, says, "Let not your heart be troubled. In my Father's house are many dwelling places," or rooms, "and I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, will I not come back and receive you and take you there to be with the Father in his dwelling place?" I'm, again, paraphrasing and doing it off the top of my head. So with that, the shepherd and I are going to go find a new place today if it does not rain. It's very overcast and it's a little chilly. I see a couple of fishermen across the street with a big truck and what looks like a fishing boat. And they are dressed in Carhartts. So, are they going fishing? Are they going goose hunting? I don't know. It's too late in the morning for goose hunting. I'm opting for fishing. We'll see if we discover them out on the lake later on this morning. Until then, for the shepherd and I, we hope your family is blessed. We hope that whatever preparations you have to make for potentially rough times in the near future or in the distant future, that your mind is on that, and that you are asking God, what is the wise choice? What is the choice that God would have you make for yourself and for your loved ones, those that He has entrusted in your care? And so, until we see you again, have a great day.